evening and welcome to the Mr. Reagan Prime Podcast. Why did I call it that? I don't know. It was short, sounded good, just did a little brainstorm. Honestly, I didn't really spend more than 5 minutes on that. We have so many amazing news stories, but I'm just reading through the chat, and there was one very amusing message, greeting by one of you. So I'm going to read this. This is from, I'm not going to get this name right. Christine Giannini, 3638. She writes, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and Happy Kwanzaa for those who celebrate who celebrate really. I just thought that was very amusing because Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, legitimate. Happy Kwanzaa, not so much. Invented religion. It's not real. All right. Yeah, so I'm kind of waiting for people to roll in here, but you guys seem like Festivus for the rest of us. That's right, Banjo the Wonder Dog, sorry. I mean, the rest of us, I assume, are the atheists. I think it's become a real thing, Festivus. People actually celebrate Festivus now. For those of you who do not know, this was a Seinfeld holiday created by George Costanza's father on the show Seinfeld. Very amusing, but, not my favorite. I would never celebrate Festivus because I have Christmas, which I'm very happy about. My mother has just texted me, which is unusual. So I think I'm going to send her the live stream, because why not, right? I don't think my parents have ever watched a single live stream of mine. They do watch me when I'm on Newsmax. So let me send my mother this. We'll see if she actually jumps on and then yells at me for saying that she doesn't watch my show. Okay. But without further ado, I think we should all jump into the first news story because this is the news of the day. All right. Oh, I forgot to set this up again. I always do that. All right, so this is our first news story. We're going back to the J6 bomber story. Now, this is Benny Johnson. Benny Johnson seems to be like the guy on this story right now. He's very focused. If you want to hear more about the J6 pipe bomber thing, go to Benny Johnson. I like Benny Johnson. He's got a good personality. He's, got a clean, slick look. He is the kind of person that knows how to monetize social media. He's very good at that. One thing I don't like about him is he's almost too good at that. Like he's too commercial. He's kind of known for like stealing other people's stuff and posting it on his channel or his X page or whatever. He's got a lot of content, so he's always kind of ripping people off and stuff like that. But he also has a lot of very, very good original content, and he's good at analysis. Anyway, he's the #1 guy here on the J6 pipe bomber terrorist story, I guess. I guess the guy's a terrorist. I don't know, he seems like a bumbling idiot, but so this is what he's written, and this kind of changed my perspective a little bit on it. There are a lot of people that are still saying that they're suspicious that there is something, because this pipe bomber does seem to have strange connections via his father through some other important people. But so this is what Benny Johnson posted. The January 6th pipe bomber terrorist was a young black man, radical anti-Trump activist, sued Donald Trump and ICE and DHS, extreme racial justice advocate, works at his family bail bonds company that frees criminal aliens from ICE custody. That's true. Well, it's all true, I think. Yeah, this explains exactly why the FBI and DOJ could not find this guy for 4 years. The Biden FBI had mountains of evidence against Brian Cole, receipts, cell data, license plate, photos, videos of the crime. They knew exactly who did it. But Brian's profile destroys their image of the MAGA white supremacist insurrectionist bomber narrative. in one below. The FBI did not fail to catch him. Leftists protected their own. This is the biggest FBI cover-up scandal in history. What a nightmare. And here's, oh, look at this. There's proposed community notes. Should we look at these? Post confuses Brian Cole Jr. with his father, Brian Cole Sr., who sued DHS in 2018. Yeah, that's true, but he did work for that company, from what I understand. Worked in the family business. I'm not sure. I mean, that's a distinction without much of a significant difference, right? So, all right, here's the point. Benny Johnson explains this very, very well, but I don't think that he was explicit enough. Oh, I'm missing a light. I don't think he was explicit enough in how he explained this, because, so here's what I think Benny Johnson's saying, and what I think is critical here. Joe Biden's and the whole Democrat operation, right? They wanted everybody to believe that this was a Trump supporter insurrection, as we all know. And so if they actually figured out who this pipe bomber was, and they go, oh, this guy's a lefty, this guy's one of us, they knew that that would dominate headlines for at least a little while, maybe for a day, maybe 2 days, but it would really dampen the January 6th narrative, not a lot, but at least a little. And so the crazy thing seems to be here that the Joe Biden DOJ, the Joe Biden FBI, seems to have decided, I mean, if they did figure out that it was this guy, which I don't know how they wouldn't have, they seem to have decided, you know what, let's just not arrest this guy. Let's just like leave it be. Because by not arresting him, and this is the most messed up thing to me, by not arresting this guy, they left it a mystery. And by leaving it a mystery, you can fill in the blanks with your imagination. And obviously the conservatives are going to go, okay, well, this was a psyop, so the bombs were probably part of the psyop. That's what made sense to us rationally. So that's what we thought, because nobody was arrested. Like, why wouldn't you not arrest somebody? But the leftists, like Democrat voters who were watching MSNBC and CNN all day, what are they going to think? They're going to, because they really think it's an insurrection, right? So the fact that there were these bombs there kind of indicates, like, this is part of the insurrection. This was another crazy right-wing Trump supporter who set these bombs there, and for some reason they just haven't been able to catch this guy. I mean, they really covered their tracks well. These shady, clever MAGA folks, so these Democrat voters continued to believe up until just yesterday that the pipe bomber was a Trump supporter, and it was all part of the insurrection, right? That's crazy to me. The DOJ and the FBI would have been able, I think, should have been able to figure this out, who this guy was, and they just let it go. Like, to me, that's just the nastiest propaganda, right? Because this guy could have bombed somebody else. They found, from what I understand, that he bought bomb parts after January 6th as well. So he was potentially planning on setting more bombs. And they just let this guy go because they didn't want the spectacle of, like, arresting a black leftist, so that it, countered this narrative that they had that everybody bad is MAGA. To me, this is sick. This is really sick. Here's what I would love to see from Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, Pam Bondi, all these guys. Go back into the FBI records, figure out who was handling this guy's information specifically. Like, who were the FBI agents that were assigned to this guy's information? Like, who took this guy's information? Who figured out that this guy had bought bomb parts, or parts that could have been used in the bomb? Who figured out that this guy's cell phone data indicated that he was there on the day, right? Who wrote those reports? Because this stuff must have been written up somewhere, right? So they would have found, okay, this is the FBI agent that was dealing with that, okay? You go interview that guy, and maybe it should be a congressional hearing, right? And you get everybody who had any knowledge of this guy at all, and you interview all of them, and you find out exactly what happened. And then you put them all in prison. I mean, I don't know if they all need to go to prison, but shoot, guys. I mean, some people definitely, like, heads need to roll on this, because to me, this was an intentional attempt to subvert justice just so that the public could believe, potentially, that the bomber was MAGA. Sick. A related thing here, related little hit from back in January 2022. This is Mehdi Hassan at MSNBC, an absolute racist, nasty, disgusting leftist. Let's hear his speculation back in 2022, why they never caught the bomber. Let's hear what he has to say about why they never caught the bomber.
Jelani, you're a black man, I'm a Muslim. When you consider how black criminals and Muslim terrorists are treated, both by the legal system and by the media, and yet the January 6th pipe bomber who laid explosives in front of the RNC and DNC headquarters still walks free. We just learned today that then Vice President-elect Harris was inside the DNC when the bomb was found there. We still don't take domestic terrorism of the far-right white variety seriously in this country, do we?
No, we don't. We've seen this since the Obama administration, where they pointed out that there was this rise of white nationalist terror, and that was promptly squashed and jumped upon by the Republicans in Congress. And so great cries of outrage in response to that. And this has been what we've seen since then, nowhere near the level of alarm that we've had around the, what was the phrase they used, Islamic terror, that they were trying to make Barack Obama say all the time.
Yeah, it's just so depressing, the double standards. I don't know how many times you can draw attention to it. I, as a Muslim, keep drawing attention to it because it kills me.
So this guy is trying to suggest that the FBI, well, not suggesting, he's stating flat out, the FBI has not caught this guy because he's a white MAGA guy. It's a right-wing terrorist plot, and the FBI just doesn't want to find him because law enforcement only arrests black men and Muslims, and they don't care. Like, how many times do we have to hear this absolute nonsense? You know, from the FBI here during the Obama era and the DOJ here during the Obama era to police officers in the UK, it's shocking to me the amount of bias that we get, you know, even if you look at the statistics, right? There does seem to be this idea, not just because of leftism, but this idea that, like, okay, if I like kill a black man, right, or kill a Muslim man as a police officer or as an FBI agent or whatever, I will lose my job. You know, almost for sure. It could become a national story. There could be riots. You know, it could become a big deal. I could go to prison. So I do think, you know, and they found this. They found that police officers are, in a study, I don't remember what the study is, I have to look it up, but they found in a study that police officers are more hesitant to shoot at black suspects, and the theory is that they're afraid of the public backlash. So they're more willing to kill white criminals than they are willing to kill black criminals. Everything this guy said, not only is it wrong, but it is delusionally wrong. It is like literally the reverse of the truth. The opposite of the truth. Yeah, I often talk about this, the opposite of the truth, right? Because Democrats don't just lie. They present the opposite of the truth. And there is a distinction there, right? Because you can lie by saying something isn't happening. Or you can lie by saying something is happening. But when you say, not only is this not happening, but the opposite of that is happening, literally the opposite is happening, it's sort of like two lies, right? Because you're saying, police are not biased against white people, but they are biased against black people and Muslims. That's two lies, right? Well, because the bias is against white people, one, and they do treat black suspects in the judicial system, oftentimes, better. I know that the data shows that they give black people harsher sentences and all that kind of stuff, but a lot of that has to do with their rap sheet. And I think a lot of it has to do with their attitude during the arrest, their attitude in court, that sort of thing, right? There's this kind of sense of defiance. I'm actually producing a video about this very soon about, well, it's already done. I just have to post it. But there is this idea that black men get treated more poorly by the court system and by the police. But ever since we've got the body cameras on all the cops, we can see what's really going on, right? They wanted body cameras on cops because they wanted to show that police were targeting black men for harassment and killing them more often and all this kind of stuff. They wanted to be able to prosecute the cops. But what they ended up finding out, and all you have to do is scroll through X to see this footage, is that for whatever reason, black people have decided, and I have a whole theory about this in the video. It's actually extremely good video, so watch out for that video coming out. Black people, for whatever reason, they treat cops with derision and belligerence. They are belligerent when they get pulled over. I don't know if this is like typical of all black people or just, this stuff, this special stuff that you're seeing on X, but you will occasionally see a video of a white person being belligerent with the cops and getting like taken down. And people always laugh at it and, lots of funny comments and all that kind of thing. But primarily those videos are black people. There is something about black culture, and I talk about it in the video and I have my whole theory, that reinforces this idea that it's acceptable to talk back to the police. It's acceptable to swear at the police, to act hostile, to act belligerent, to act defiant. And it's like, you guys, you're going to escalate this. You're going to escalate this. You're going to get arrested. And then they get arrested and they go to court and they're belligerent to the judge and they're defiant to the judge and they swear at the judge and it's like, well, of course you're getting longer sentences, guys. Like, how about this? How about this? Be nice. Just be nice, right? You live in a sophisticated first world country, the richest country in the world, the best developed country in the world. We have the best of everything. We have the best technology, we have the best infrastructure, we have the best everything in America. Like, just be nice, okay? Just chill out. Chill out. Anyway, sorry, that's a little bit of a rant. So, that's what I think is going on with the, that's cool. That's what I think is going on with the pipe bomber. I'm more and more accepting this idea that this guy was just some kind of like crazy leftist activist and he decided that he was going to take the opportunity of January 6th to set these bombs. Now, like I said, there is some speculation still that this was set up, right? That this guy was recruited somehow by someone and this was intentional. I don't know. That seems less and less likely to me, but it's still possible. It's still possible. So we're going to have to wait and see, and I will, of course, update you guys the next I see it. All right, here we go. This is really a fantastic story. I mean, it's horrible, of course, but just more evidence, I think, that leftists are corrupt, leftists in the government, in the bureaucracy in D.C. Here's the thing. So this was the DEA's chief financial director under Obama. So this is a guy high up in the DEA. And he said, and this guy, Paul Campo, he resigned in 2016 ahead of Trump's administration. He just had his Virginia home raided and has been charged for agreeing to launder $12 million for a Mexican cartel while acting in his role at the DEA. I don't think that's actually true. It wasn't while he was acting in his role at the DEA. This was more recently. So this guy started up a new company after he left, government, like a financial services company or something like that. And there was a sting operation that was set up. So he was offered to launder some money for a drug cartel, but it turned out to be like a federal agent. And he went ahead and wired them some money, and the whole thing was like set up to go. And and he ended up getting arrested. A corrupt Democrat, who would have guessed it, right? So I did look into the story. I did read a couple of articles on this, but it looks like it's developing. We'll see. I mean, I don't think the mainstream media is going to bring you this story at all because it's an Obama guy, right? But you'll hear more about it in the right-wing media. You'll probably see it on Newsmax. You'll probably see it on Fox News. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with this guy. But yeah, I think there's a lot more corruption, guys. I think we all agree with this. A lot more corruption within the federal government than we would like to believe. And I think that sort of thing thrives when Democrats are in power. And I think it is muted a little bit when conservatives are in power, especially like Trump and the Trump administration. So this is just another reason why it's absolutely critical that we make sure that true conservative patriots are elected to federal office. All right, let's move on to another fascinating story. These are all great stories, by the way. All right, so this is just a metaphor, guys. This is a metaphor. This is a kind of a thing that you've probably heard before, but this woman has such a great analogy. So let's go ahead and play this and see what happens.
If it was your child's school and there was a big group of people from a war-torn country where terrorism runs rife, where violence is acceptable day in, day out, and someone said to you, I've got a group of 100 people here. Now, the likelihood is that 99 of them are not violent and won't hurt you and are good, decent people, but there's a chance that one of them might pull out a knife and stab. One of them might pull out a gun and shoot. Would you say, well, 99% of them are okay, so I'm going to let them, yes, let them into my child's school. Absolutely let them in. Of course you wouldn't. No way in hell any parent is saying, that's a risk I'm willing to take. So at the moment, this is the right decision. But I know that there are very decent, amazing people who've risked their lives in Afghanistan. And again, this all comes, they have been let down so badly by Joe Biden and that disgraceful act of going into a country and then leaving it to go to hell. If it was your child.
I love that metaphor. And it's not just a metaphor about, Afghan soldiers, people that worked with us in Afghanistan. I mean, this is true of, all immigrants, right? All illegal immigrants, immigrants from certain countries, you know what I mean? And I talked about this yesterday. You need to prioritize safe countries, low crime countries, Christian countries, countries that are, have a similar culture to ours, high education, potentially high IQ countries. We can use a number of metrics to ensure that the immigrants that come here to America are safe before we even start vetting the individuals at an individual level, because people can lie. People can lie. So you want to give yourself the best chance of bringing in the best immigrants possible before you ever go on to that individual interview to try to vet them individually, because I don't think they do a very good job. And I'll tell you why. Because I went through the immigration process, not because of myself, because I was married to a woman who was going through it. And let me tell you, every single person that we met throughout the process was radical left. They were all leftists. Why? Because people go into fields of work that they are passionate about. And there are very few people that are passionate about going into immigration as a job and bringing in immigrants, right? And we had some trouble, actually, going through the immigration process. And I think that we had some trouble because, my wife was a very beautiful white woman from Eastern Europe. So I think these immigration officers were like, we only bring in, people from like the poorest countries with, dark skin and, specific kinds of accents and cultures. They have a specific idea of who they want to bring in. They don't want to bring in pretty white girls from Eastern Europe that might vote for Trump. They're not interested in that. So the whole immigration system is totally rigged anyway. Not necessarily intentionally, but it's just rigged by the nature of the kinds of people who want to go in and work for them. So yeah, we need to prioritize the kinds of countries we're bringing in, and that's a beautiful analogy. If there's a chance that 1 in 100 people that you're going to bring into your child's school is, violent, potentially could commit murder, are you going to let that 100 people in? No, you are not. You are not going to let them into your child's school. That's insane. And the same thing should be true of immigrants into America. All right, we've got a couple of super chats here. Thank you, guys. It's an uncommon treat. So this is going to be Patrick Wright, BK, I guess it's, let's see here. Patrick Wright, BK1, ER. I don't know what that means, but Patrick Wright. He says, Benny Johnson lost me last year when he repeatedly would not acknowledge you by name for your brilliant Kamala AI video, instead implying that Elon had been the author. Your instincts are correct here. Yeah, you know what's actually funny about that? When I just mentioned that he tends to steal people's work and doesn't cite, you know, who the work is from, I wasn't talking about myself. I actually didn't know that he had done that. But yeah, he's kind of known for that. He does add a lot of value, so I respect the guy. I think he's all right, and you know, I've watched him. He seems okay. You know, personality-wise, he seems fine, and his heart seems to be in the right place generally in terms of like the direction of the country and everything. But yeah, it's a little bit shady. Some of the tactics, and that's true of like a lot of influencers, a lot of these guys, just because, you know, it's a hard business that we're in. You know, it's hard to make content, so much content that, you know, get all the views on your channel. I mean, in advertising, they say you have to break through the clutter. And Benny Johnson seems to do that by sometimes by quantity instead of quality. But sometimes his stuff actually is really good. All right. Let's see here. Hell Radio Lives sent me $5 and he says, I find the most belligerent of arrestees to cops while on video tend to be women, specifically black women. Yeah, black women. I think you do find belligerent black men for sure. I mean, it's shocking to me sometimes. But I think a lot of black men do realize, like, if I'm belligerent, if I'm, you know, if I'm argumentative, if I'm aggressive with this cop, I could probably get killed. But the black women don't seem to realize this. They're just like, I'm a queen, didn't you know? You can't talk to me like this. It's crazy. It's crazy how defiant they can be and how aggressive. And they really think like the cop's not going to arrest them because they're like, you know, didn't your mama teach you not to lay your hands on a woman? That kind of thing. But it's like, you know, it's a police officer. This is his job. You know. All right, let's move on to the next story. The chat's either really quiet or I've got like a massive delay here. Hopefully you guys can still hear me. All right, moving on to the next story. Oh, this is a great one. This is a great one, you guys. Trump announces that he will approve the production of well, okay, that's not exactly what it is, but let's have a look. Let's have a look.
If you go to Japan, where I just left, and if you go to South Korea and Malaysia and other countries, they have a very small car, sort of like the Beetle used to be with the Volkswagen. They're very small, they're really cute. And I said, how would that do in this country? And everyone seems to think good, but you're not allowed to build them. And I've authorized the secretary to immediately approve the production of those cars. So you'll be able to buy, they really are, they're actually, some of them are really beautiful, actually. If you take a look, Honda, some of the Japanese companies do a beautiful job. But we're not allowed to make them in this country. And I think you're going to do very well with those cars. So we're going to approve those cars. Would you like to say something about that?
Well, no, just that he never stops working. So even when he's on Asian time, he's calling me at midnight in the States. But he gave me the directive to clear the regulations on this, which we have. And so if Toyota or any other company wants to make smaller, more affordable cars, fuel efficient, we have cleared the deck so they can make them in America and sell them in America.
They're really nice and less expensive. And it really gives people a chance to have a car, you know, have a brand new car as opposed to a car that maybe isn't so great.
All right, so here's the thing about this. What Trump is essentially doing is deregulating. And this is actually massive because what he's doing is he's sort of allowing cars on the road and the highway that, you know, I think primarily they're drawing back emissions regulations, but they're probably drawing back several other kinds of regulations as well, which are superfluous and end up making these cars and trucks extremely expensive here in America, whereas you can get sort of stripped down, cheaper vehicles all over the world. And Trump's like, well, why don't we just give people more opportunities to buy cheap cars so there's more money in their pocket and they can spend it on other things, whatever it is. Now, for a long time, there has been talk of a very specific version of the Toyota, what they call the Toyota Hilux. This is it here. And a lot of people have wanted this truck in America for a very long time, but we can't have it because we have all these regulations. The reason they love this is because this is like a $14,000 pickup truck that you could buy new, and people just love this idea because it's kind of cool also, right? It's kind of cool just to have like a strip back. I remember one time my brother, I don't remember what was going on. My brother had bought a gun, and it was just such a simple gun. It was an old-fashioned gun from like World War II called a Mosin Nagant. And I looked at this gun and I'm like, this bolt-action rifle. And I thought, man, I kind of want this gun. And my brother's like, it's like $50, I can buy you one. I'm like, yeah, buy me this gun. So now I have this Mosin Nagant. It's like the most simple kind of gun that you could imagine from Russia, from World War II. But fantastic gun, fantastic. Same thing with this. It's just a stripped down, bare bones truck. That's what it is. To me, I don't know, there's something kind of masculine about that. There's something kind of cool about that. So let's have a look at this thing. I mean, it's basic. It like doesn't even have paneling. It's crazy. But anyway, people went, like this went viral a little while ago, maybe a year ago, where people were just like, why don't we have this in America? And people are all talking about like mounting guns on the top like they do in the third world. So now everybody's like posting all these videos and images of the kind of vehicles that they want now in America. The only potentially bad thing about this is that you've got the, you see what I'm talking about with the machine guns on the back and everything. The only potential problem that you've got about this is like, now you have a potential of a lot of ugly vehicles on the road, which, I mean, we've already got, you know, minivans exist. So that's, I think that the ugliest cars that we have on the road today are like minivans from like the 1990s that tend to be bought, I think, by illegal immigrants who are, you know, they've got like a carpet cleaning job or something like that, you know, business. And they buy these minivans because they're, you know, relatively decent work trucks. And to me, it's, if I get behind a minivan on the highway, I want to throw up. But anyway, yeah, so people are posting their favorite cheap, crappy cars that we're going to see. But yeah, there could be a nice, I don't even know what that is. The Suzuki Jimny. Yeah, this may have been a horrible mistake. We'll see. But yeah, we get cheap cars now, which is kind of nice. And it should help the economy and should help people. You know, that's the thing. People are like, everything's so expensive, everything's so expensive. This is like a very practical measure to make things a little bit cheaper for the American consumer. If you're not spending, you know, if you can save $10,000 on a car, that's $10,000 that you have for, you know, food or rent or, you know, maybe some luxury goods if you want. But anyway, so I'm loving this, loving this. Let's see here, yeah, okay. So this is my favorite network, Newsmax, with my good buddy Rob Schmidt, whose show I've been on several times, but I'm only ever on Rob Schmidt's show when he's got a substitute in. I'm never on the show when he's hosting. I don't think I've been on the show with Laura Trump hosting. I've been on the show with what's his name? David Harris Jr., is that his name? I've been on the show when he hosts, obviously Sebastian Gorka. I've been on the show with many people hosting, but never with Rob Schmidt hosting. What's up with that, Rob? Come on, man. Put me on the show. All right, so let's have a look at this. This is just a little bit of a rant about Ilhan Omar.
And it's done for political reasons, I believe, and it's decimating our bottom line. It's decimating our culture. And when asked about it, we hear that they're the backbone of our community without being given any reason why they are.
Yeah, look, those are empty Democrat talking points. If you look at the elected representatives, you've got Ilhan Omar, who is viciously anti-American, a radical leftist. You look up in Dearborn, Michigan, where you've got Rashida Tlaib, same thing. You know, last year you had an entire mob in Dearborn, Michigan chanting "Death to America." And Rashida Tlaib refused to condemn that. Ilhan Omar has been at rallies where people are proclaiming their loyalty to Somalia and proclaiming it over the United States of America, and that is dangerous. And those are both examples of radicals who favor open borders, who favor releasing criminals from jail, who are rabidly anti-Semitic, who are Marxists and hate free enterprise and capitalism, and who hate your rights and my rights, and it is dangerous.
Yeah. Okay. So here's why I wanted to play that Ilhan Omar thing. I have been considering for a long time now. Oh, somebody said hi from Salem, Oregon. Extreme Dad Drama says shout out from Salem, Oregon. Nice to see you, man. I'm from Salem, Oregon, so that's a nice little personal thing here. Look, Ted Cruz. Okay, so Britton J. Orwin is saying Ted Cruz is Israel first. Okay, whatever. At the end of the day, what he's saying here is right. I want to address what he's saying here. Ilhan Omar actually is Somalia first. And let me explain a little bit why. Like I said, I've been trying to produce a video about her for a long time. I've just never gotten to it because I always have other priorities. But there's footage of her from many, many years ago, which I collected, and I don't know if I still have it. I saved it somewhere. Hopefully I can find it again. But it's her talking about what her time was like when she was living back in Somalia. And the reason I have some insight into this is because I knew a girl from Somalia when I was living in LA. She was a friend of mine. She lived across the hall from me for a little while. Nice girl. And, you know, she grew up in America, but her parents were from Somalia. Her grandmother was from Somalia. All her aunts are from Somalia. And she's like, yeah, you know, we have these family gatherings, celebrations, whatever. And, you know, my grandmother sits in a chair and everybody sort of like, you know, kind of pays respect to her, which I think is a cool kind of like cultural custom or whatever. But she says, whenever that happens, whenever we have these family meetings, my family is always complaining about how much better life was like back in Somalia. And I'm like, that's really weird that they would think that. And she's like, the reason life was better back in Somalia was because we had servants. We had servants in Somalia, okay? And they talk about how because everybody's so poor in Somalia and because their family had money, they were essentially like royalty out there in Somalia, right? They were the aristocratic class. And so they had, you know, they were obviously black servants, right? They were Somali servants. So in Somalia, you have a very strong class system where you have the rich Somalis and you have the poor Somalis. And the poor Somalis essentially just serve the rich Somalis. And so if you're a rich Somali, you look back and you go, oh, life was so much better when I had servants to do everything for me. And that's Ilhan Omar, guys. Ilhan Omar's father was a high-ranking military official in the communist government in Somalia. And there was a revolution and they had to leave because they were part of the losing faction, and so they left. The government was ousted. And Ilhan Omar wants that again. This is why Ilhan Omar has this narcissistic, you know, egocentric attitude all the time. That's why she's always so smug, right? When you hear her speak, no matter what show she's on, no matter what she's talking about, she is smug to no end. Just watch her. Like, pay attention to how she speaks. She thinks she is better than every other human on earth. She's not attractive. She's not physically attractive. You know, she doesn't speak particularly well. You know, she's not got a very high IQ. She's not very charming. There's nothing about her that has that sort of intrinsic value that one would go, ah, okay. This woman is high status. There's nothing that would make you think that about her, naturally. Except that her family was the upper class back in Somalia. And she complains in this video that I found, she complains about when she came to America, her father lived in like a studio apartment with her for like a year or something like that. And she says she remembers the difference between this big, beautiful house that they had with all the family running around and servants and everything like that, and this tiny little studio apartment that her father rented out. And she saw the difference between the level of respect that her father got in America and the level of respect that her father got in Somalia. And she hated America. She thought America was, because they didn't live in like a nice neighborhood. You know, they lived in a crappy neighborhood in a studio apartment, you know, alone with her father, with her family not around. So there was nobody there that was like praising her father, respecting her father. They didn't have the servants running around. They didn't have the big house. And so she looked at America as an inferior place to where she grew up. So this is why, at least in part, I think that Ilhan Omar is trying to make America into a communist country, right? Her father was part of the communist military there. She's trying to turn America into a communist country. She's trying to bring back the servant class. Because even though she works for the federal government and she makes way more money than she probably should, given her IQ level and given her actual, you know, value to society, she makes tons of money on the taxpayer dollar. You guys, like, people don't really realize how much money these people make, not in, you know, in their actual salary, but in their perks, right? In the private jets, in the, you know, in the free everything. You know, the government, if you work as a senator or a congressman, you get paid, you get basically everything paid for you. You know, so she's got all these perks, tons of perks. You know, she's expensing everything. And so she's spending way more money, way more government money than she's getting paid. So all the money that she's getting paid, she's probably barely spending any of it. She's just saving that, right? And then she's just spending all this money on perks. That makes me sick. I hate that. I hate that our federal government pays so much money for these people. I think we need to, like, somehow, like, create some kind of laws or regulations around all the perks that these congressmen and senators get. I think that they get way too much, and they abuse it massively. And she's definitely doing that. So she already lives like royalty in Washington, D.C., and I think that only feeds her ego. So anyway, so she's become this smug, you know, egomaniac, narcissistic psychopath, because she's like, you know, look, I got, you know, voted into office. I am as great as I think, you know. And she actually still has servants now, right? Because she has personal assistants that are running around doing her work for her. She has an office with people who do stuff for her, right? So she's got that sense of royalty again, like she's better than everybody else. But she's constantly trying to turn America into Somalia. She's trying to turn it into that third world country. So that makes me sick. Anyway, I would love to make that video at some point with all like the reference videos and everything like that, so I can make my point more, you know, because, you know, I'm just telling you what I believe. But if I had the actual references, if I could show you the actual video of what she says, whew, that girl is, she does not have loyalty to America. She has no loyalty to America. She is a nasty person. All right, next story. This is annoying. This is annoying. So the EU, basically they told Elon Musk, like, you need to start, this is how Elon Musk has reported it, you need to start censoring content that we don't like, conservative content, whatever it might be. And, you know, don't tell the people that you're censoring the content of, just do it. Just censor it based on these guidelines we're going to send you. And Elon Musk was like, no, I'm not going to censor it. So the EU fined him like over $100 million. I don't remember what it was. I have to look it up. But they fined him like over $100 million, $170 million, something like that. And yeah, hundreds of millions, it says here. So J.D. Vance has written this tweet. Rumors are swirling that the EU Commission will fine X hundreds of millions of dollars for not engaging in censorship. The EU should be supporting free speech, not attacking American companies over garbage. Exactly. And I think Elon Musk actually thanked him for this. And there's some wonderful comments here, if you want to look down. I always like Mrs. B's memes that she posts. These are always great. Yeah, these are all fun. This guy's usually got some good takes, Mike Benz. You can learn more about that stuff there. But anyway, yeah, it's nice to see J.D. Vance supporting Elon Musk. And so this is like a little shot across the bow, if you will. So J.D. Vance, you know, vice president, represents our federal government, is saying to the EU, piss off, okay? Do not sit here and threaten Elon Musk with these massive fines. Look, I don't really know how international litigation works with these major companies. I don't even know if the EU, you know, it'll be easy for them to do this. But this is an awful thing. We should not have our American companies regulated by the EU. You know, like, so what, Elon Musk is going to just like censor everybody because the citizens of the EU can't handle it? They might be triggered by something. So yeah, we're not going to let them regulate our social media companies in this way. And J.D. Vance is making that point very clear. I don't think that the EU is going to win this fight. I think this is virtue signaling. I don't think they should ever have tried to engage in this. I think this is a huge mistake for them. And well done to J.D. Vance for standing up for America. All right, let's. This is a story about the Netflix Warner Brothers merger. Netflix has acquired Warner Brothers, they've said. Now, apparently this deal hasn't gone through because I think the United States government needs to approve it, and there needs to be some other stuff that has to happen. But yeah, there's this bidding war for Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers was like, anybody want to buy us? And like everybody was like, yes, we all do. And it looks like Netflix won. And Paramount, I think, is positioning to maybe swoop in and snatch a victory from the jaws of defeat. We'll see how that plays out. It'll be interesting. But the reason that this is important, the reason I wanted to talk about this on the show, was Netflix is essentially known for one thing more than anything else nowadays, and that is DEI. Netflix is one of the worst offenders. I mean, it's like a competition between Netflix and Disney. Who can be the most woke? You know, it is disturbing how woke Netflix is. Horrible, horrible. I watched a show called Physical 100, fantastic show made out of Korea, or produced out of Korea. And they ended up doing an Asia version, which is like multiple countries around Asia, because normally it's just a Korean competitors. So they had like Japan, you know, they had Turkey, which is kind of weird. You don't really think of Turkey as in Asia because it's kind of like between Europe and Asia, but I suppose technically it is in Asia. So they brought in Turkey, and they brought in Australia, which is its own continent, but you know, in that sort of eastern hemisphere of the planet, I guess. So they brought in Australia. So it wasn't just purely Asia, but it was sort of like that region. And they had like Indonesia and Philippines and everything. And it was actually really great to watch. What's interesting is that, like, you know, you kind of do see that like the elite athletes from every country that they brought in for this, because it was like an athletic competition game show. And it's a really fantastic show. But it's kind of fun because you can see how like the stature of different countries is, right? Because they're elite athletes. Some of them are like really tiny. The Mongolians are very strong. You know, the people from Turkey are very big. And the thing about the Australians is, for some reason, they decided that they were going to infuse many of the Australian team members, or they were going to infuse the Australian team with people of color. Like, Australia is arguably a pretty white country, right? I know it's a diverse country, but when you think of Australians, when somebody goes, you know, you think of Crocodile Dundee, you think of a bunch of white guys. But for some reason, they decided that they were going to make that particular group diverse. Now, there was another one, I think it was Thailand, that was also a fairly diverse group. Because it was, but I think everybody that was involved in the Thai group was like mixed, like Thai and something else. And I think the primary reason why their top athletes are not all just like 100% pure blood Thai is because they're very small people, you know, and so they had like a half Thai, half black girl and a half Thai, half white person and that kind of thing. But the Australian team wasn't like halves always. Like it was just, you know, whatever. We were to bring in diverse people, which I think was kind of silly. But the thing that was really bad about it is that it was very obvious that South Korea had rigged the game show so that South Korea would win it. And if you went on X and you looked, everybody recognized that this was a huge problem. It's horrible. It's horrible. Certainly a show worth watching. I recommend it, but know that it was totally rigged. Sorry, there's a spoiler there, but yeah, Korea, it was totally rigged for Korea. They knocked out Australia and Turkey were the two best teams, very clearly. But yeah, Netflix does this. Netflix does it with all kinds of shows. They do this race swapping. They do historical race swapping. They do race swapping of beloved characters. They put in all kinds of LGBT messaging and all this kind of stuff. There's gay everything on Netflix. People are complaining right now that the new season of Stranger Things, which I haven't watched, is like super LGBT content. I will watch it because I love that show, but I'm not looking forward to it actually. So the big problem here is that Warner Brothers has, a lot of, I would say, culturally significant characters, right? You got the whole sort of Warner Brothers cartoons, Bugs Bunny and all that. But perhaps more importantly, you have the whole DC universe. So the whole DC comic book universe. So you have Superman, Batman, The Flash, all those characters. Wonder Woman. And like, how much gay stuff are they going to infuse in that? They're going to do the whole Star Wars treatment where they make, the future is female and everything like that. It's going to feminize everything. I mean, I feel like the DC universe in terms of cinema has already kind of been destroyed. They just have not been doing a good job with it over the years. But I think it can only get worse with Netflix. I hope not. I hope I'm wrong. So that's what you see in all the comments here. The life of Stephen Hawking, right? And it's like a black lesbian woman. This guy writes, Netflix presents polar bears. That's actually an old meme. Netflix has been known for this for so long. Here's Elon Musk, presented by Netflix. Netflix remake of Harry Potter. By the way, I love him. I forget his name, but Terry Crews. Terry Crews, I love Terry Crews. And I actually think Terry Crews is fairly conservative guy secretly. I don't know for sure, but I think he is. But he's awesome. I love Terry Crews. Let's see here. Snow, a series by Netflix, and it looks like Kanye's in the picture. Let's see here. We've got a response, a super chat, $5. Thank you, Patrick Wright. Another one. So speaking of Newsmax, you should get together with Chris Plant, popular host on WMAL, and best buds with Gorka. The two of you would be funny. I have met Chris Plant once. Gorka loves him. He listens to him all the time. And he raves about him, talks to me about how great he is. So, yeah, I respect that guy. I should get together with him at some point. Here we go. Here's Rapunzel with no hair. That's perfect. Let's see here. The Friends rerun coming back. That's so funny. I like that they kept the two of the girls and David Schwimmer. And for some reason, the blonde chick, whose name I can't remember, Lisa Kudrow, is now a bunny rabbit? What's up with that? It's weird. It's funny, though. Wall Street Apes writes, get ready for a black Superman who falls in love with another dude. Netflix puts out nothing but the most woke nonsense ever. It's true. It's absolutely true. Somebody writes, that's all, folks. There's Putin. Here we go. This is what people are worried about, This is what people are worried about. And MLK with Tom Hanks. I love it, you guys. Phoebe the Furry, somebody wrote. Phoebe the Furry, that's right. Dame Piggy Doo. Thank you, Dame Piggy Doo, for that. That was pretty funny. Yeah, and here's the really awful thing about this. You see all this speculation, and you think, okay, people are already speculating that they're going to wokeify DC Comics characters and all this kind of thing. You'd think that Netflix would see this outrage on X, and they'd go, you know what, we're not going to do that. We're going to prove you wrong. But no, they won't. They won't. I guarantee exactly what we're predicting will happen. They will wokeify every property that Warner Brothers owns, and it's going to be awful. Original Star Trek, Netflix, it says adaptation. Yeah, adaptation or adaptation. I think both of those words work. It's horrible. Yeah, we're all horrified. We're all disgusted. We're all not looking forward to to what's going to happen there. But, you know, maybe we're wrong. We can be optimistic. All right, now I got a couple of like lighter-hearted stories. These are pretty fun. Man in Idaho, this is crazy. This guy won beer for a month because this local bar decided that if you turn in an illegal immigrant, we'll give you beer for a month.
Ryan Spoon, the so-called first winner of Old State Saloon's month of free beer promotion, told Idaho News 6 he filed that tip believing the man he reported worked for Mickelson's Farms.
Basically, I repeated Representative Stephanie Mickelson's, State House Representative Stephanie Mickelson. She gave public floor testimony on the floor of the Idaho State House in 2024, I believe it was, where in her own words, she said that, quote, every food processor in the state, unquote, hires illegals.
Mickelson, whose family employs hundreds of workers, says she decided to speak now to let others know she thinks the saloon's promotion is despicable.
If we start targeting people based upon the color of their skin, that we really have a big problem here.
Immigration attorneys warn that programs like this can lead to false accusations, targeting of Hispanic workers, and misuse of federal agencies.
I think there should be more promotions like this. I think lots of bars across the country should do this. If you're a patriotic bar, offer patrons a month of free beer for turning in illegals. I think that's hilarious. I think it's brilliant. I think we should do it. You know, this is the kind of response you're going to be getting. This is the way. Yes, it is the way. This is a great meme. America wants to be as happy as the residents of Martha's Vineyard were when they deported all their illegal immigrants. I don't know if you guys remember that story, but that is funny. How to avoid ICE. Don't be here illegally. Don't attack ICE officers. Obey federal and state laws. Man, I love comment sections on X. It's fantastic. All right. We got 1 minute left, so let's wrap this up. But I'll go a little bit over, because I got a couple more stories here. And this is the best stuff, guys. If you're thinking of leaving, don't leave, because this is the best stuff. This is the last 4 things I've got here is fantastic stuff. All right. Humanity has been so thoroughly Humanity has so thoroughly banished hunger that, as of this year, there are more obese kids in this world than there are underweight kids. And we're talking about around the world. This is not just in America. I think America surpassed that line a long time ago, like maybe in like the 60s or 70s or something. We're talking about the world. We're talking about places like China and Indonesia and Somalia and places like that. There are now more obese children in this world than there are underweight. You can see the graph here. And okay, it's a problem, right? We need to deal with nutrition and fitness and all that kind of thing. But a heck of a lot better. You'd rather have a world of slightly obese people than underweight people, because underweight means that, you know, people could potentially die from that. Obesity, you're probably going to die like a lot later in life. And we scroll down here, and they've made this connection between communism and capitalism, and the, you know, this famine epidemic, or, you know, various famines. I shouldn't use the word epidemic, but various famines that have existed throughout history. So you have all these massive famines that occurred, you know, sort of especially during the era of communism, right? Communism caused a lot of these famines. There are famines that were not caused by communism, obviously, but many of them were. But then once communism kind of fades into the background, you don't have so much communism in the world anymore, then you get over here in like the 1970s and stuff, and then boom, all these massive famines start to disappear once capitalism kind of really takes over completely. This also coincides with something called the Green Revolution, where there was essentially pesticides and fertilizers that were developed that were really, really advanced. You know, people go, oh, you can't use this pesticide. Oh, you can't use this fertilizer. Oh, this is going to like give you cancer or something like that. But a lot of those pesticides and fertilizers that people claim cause cancer, which most of the time they don't, or if they do, it's like very limited. The benefits really outweigh the cost, because the benefits allow us to create such a massive amount of food that really there should be no reason whatsoever why anyone in the world ever starves or is even malnourished. The reason that people are malnourished, the reason that people starve to death in the world still, isn't because of a lack of food. It's because in some regions there is conflict, or there are dictators that basically choke off the amount of food that can get brought into the region. There are some places like Rhodesia, right? Rhodesia there was a revolution there, or they switched out the government. They basically pushed out all the white people from Rhodesia. And it became Zimbabwe. The country became Zimbabwe. And the currency inflated to the point where it was worthless, and they stole all the farmland from all the white farmers and gave it to essentially like friends and cronies of the president, the government. They gave all this land, this fertile, beautifully, beautiful farmland that was being cultivated really brilliantly by these white farmers. And it went from the region of Africa that produced the most food to the region of Africa that produced, some of the least amount of food. Like it just like destroyed their entire agricultural economy by doing that. So racism is bad, guys, especially when it's against white people. All right, let's look at the next story. Basically, this is a great story. I think it's a great story. We're essentially abolishing hunger in the world. It's getting there. We're getting there. We're doing better. All right, let's have a look. Okay, this is just a joke, but it's a joke that I love, guys. These are the daughters and granddaughters of very strong Republican men trying to involve their fathers and grandfathers in videos where they pretend that they've got a scholarship that was provided by the Democrat Party, and they have to explain in a video why they're a good Democrat and what inspired them to become such a great Democrat, and they're pretending that it's a joke, and they're pretending that their father or grandfather taught them, and the reactions of these guys are fantastic. Let's have a look at this.
Because he taught me what it is to be a true Democrat, and we just want to formally thank Joe Biden for all he's done. What do you have to say?
That's the fucking worst thing I've ever heard.
For this opportunity, I was asked to make a video with someone that has inspired me to be a strong and independent Democrat. That person...
He has inspired me to be a great Democrat. And we are thanking Joe Biden for everything he's done.
Oh, no.
Oh, shit.
Oh, no.
Me to be an independent Democrat. That would be my dad. Ever since I was a kid.
Time out. You ain't no Democrat. You're a Democrat? You telling them you're a Democrat?
That's... Dad,
Don't do that damn scholarship.
Stop.
Nope.
We are very big supporters of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. So, Dad, can you say a few things you like about them? Yeah.
Absolutely fucking not. I am not doing that. I'll give you whatever the fucking goddamn scholarship is. No freaking way.
After listening to my father-in-law talk about how Biden and Kamala are doing great things for this country, it really lit a fire under my ass to support the Democratic Party. Thank you for choosing me.
You stupid motherfucker. I told you she was stupid.
Given the scholarship was sponsored by the Democratic Party, I would like to give a thank you to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. I have chosen my grandfather. He is exactly what I imagined a Democrat to be and has inspired me to be a Democrat.
Oh, hell no.
I love that. Anyway, I just thought I'd show you guys that video because that just killed me. That just killed me. I love that. That's a nasty prank, but it's a good one. That's a good one. All right, and this was kind of a funny little tweet. So William Shatner, this guy writes about, William Shatner is very popular on X, actually. So this guy posts this image of this Christmas tree with all of these figures from Star Trek. There's Q up there, there's the Next Generation, all the original Star Trek guys. You can see at the very top of the tree, there's an Enterprise. Pretty cool tree. And William Shatner noticed this is one anomaly. He goes, could you identify this ornament on your Federation tree. If you like Star Trek, I thought this was very funny. I thought this was very cool. William Shatner's very funny. He's like, I think he's like getting up there to like 100 years old. I mean, he's an old man, but he is still sharp as a tack. He is very funny, very sharp, very cool dude. So I thought I'd play that. And then last but not least is my good friend, Sean Farash. Sean Farash does the best Trump impression you will ever hear in your life. So let's go ahead and see what his latest video is, because this is a good one.
My fellow Americans, it is my great honor, the greatest honor, to announce and declare complete and total victory over the 2025 hurricane season. We had 0 hurricanes in the Gulf of America ever since we made the name change. I got along very well with, you may have heard of her, Mother Nature. You may have heard of her. She's a tremendous person. I've known her for a long time, and we get along well. And I said to her, if you send any hurricanes into our country, we're going to hit you with tariffs the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. We're going to tariff those storms at 1,000, 2,000, 3,000%. And she said, sir, we're not going to send any hurricanes in. And we made a beautiful deal. Mother Nature, great person. But we had a lot of, they call it wind shear. They call it wind shear. And it ripped up the storms out there before they can get to our country. Ripped up the storms worse than the Somalians are ripping up Minnesota. You look at Ilhan, you look at the brother. Many people are saying it. She married her brother. And very interesting. If she did that, you know, it's a raw deal for the brother. He divorced his first wife, which was probably a goat, and wound up marrying a pig in Ilhan Omar. She's a nasty person, very nasty. But you had a lot of people talking about it. It's an El Nino year. It's a La Nina year. You're going to have hurricanes. We deported El Nino, and we deported La Nina, too. They were in our country illegally. We got rid of them. And we had the greatest hurricane season the world has ever seen. No hurricanes in the Gulf.
Okay. Sorry, my OBS disconnected for a moment. If you don't follow Sean Farash, the legend, on X, please do. Please do. The guy is amazing. What an impression. Just, the first time I watched that, I think I was crying laughing. I mean, it's so spot on. Everything, like even the way he formulates the sentences is genius. I'm going to have to write him because I think I want him to do something for this cartoon that I'm trying to produce. But anyway, that's it for the show for today. The last thing we're going to do is the meme of the day. Let's see what we got here. I hope I set this up. All right, so this, oh no, I did the same meme yesterday, didn't I? All right, let's do another one. What one should I do today? We're going to find out if this, there we go. All right. Okay, yeah, this is a good one. This is a good one. Seeing as we talked about Star Trek, yes, you will never unsee this. I believe she's called Guinan? Guinan? Is that her name? In the, something like that. In the Star Trek The Next Generation show. I mean, this cracked me up. So anyway, it's a kind of a silly meme, but we'll have another one tomorrow. Hopefully it'll be better and more racist. Racist meme of the day. Anyway, I thought that this was a jam-packed news day, even though there's, you know, only a couple of really big stories. There was a lot of interesting little news stories, and we're going to do it again tomorrow, the last day of the week, Friday. And, oh no, this is the last day. Is this the last day? This is Friday. Okay, because I missed Tuesday, that's why. So I only did 4 this week. All right, I get confused, you know. I'm a YouTuber. I don't have a real job. Come on, guys. All right, until Monday, I will see you then. Remember, it's not that all of our friends are ignorant. It's just they know so much that is not so. All right, good night, guys.